My hobbies are gaming and creating videos, but I do spend time on human anatomy. The human body is just so amazing that even after thousands of years of exploration, I and many young men are still wasting days and nights on doing our homework and research on the topic. Sometimes I found some good sources which require me to store them in my computer so that I could continue working with them offline. Today, by combining the sub Meshlicious with a mini GPU, we can solve the storage problem in small form factor PCs and have a machine dedicated to human anatomy. I had to strip down everything and build it from scratch, but this process is still similar to my previous video because there are just some minor changes. As we use the included hard drive bracket to mount some drives, you may need to remove the GPU mounting bars if you want to install a 3.5-inch drive. Mine are all 2.5, so removing is not needed. But I will remove the two standoffs on the PCIe riser cable because one of them may block a thick hard drive. I also switch back to using the stock motherboard standoffs because of the length of my PCI riser. If you want to keep using the standoff mod, you will need to buy a longer riser, and I'm not sure about the length, but LinkUp store on Amazon can cover the problem. The motherboard I/O cover is moved from 4 slot back to the 3 slot configuration. We also need to grab two standoffs and install them to the back of the motherboard tray. These are used to secure the riser cable. For the riser, I initially thought that I could use the one coming with my K39 case, but it is actually a few millimeters too short. Luckily, the one that comes with my MI6 case was just perfect, so I don't need to buy a new one. Make sure to wrap the riser around the motherboard tray like this before installing the motherboard, otherwise it will not be possible to screw the riser in and you may need to take everything out to undo. As I switch to using shorter standoffs, I can't use this heatsink for my rear M.2 SSD, so I grabbed a cheap 3mm thick thermal pad so that the heat can be transferred to the motherboard tray, making it a giant heatsink for the drive. Without doing this, I know my drive will surely be throttled. I placed the ESP cable like this before installing the motherboard so that it would not be visible. The cables are slim enough to be routed behind the board and still allow me to plug into the power supply despite being short. To install the drive bracket, you need these 3 tiny screws. They help secure the bracket to the case like this. Next to installing the drives, there are 2 types of screws and they can be mistaken, but the one on the left is a bit bigger and used for a large 3.5-inch drive. The smaller screw on the right will be used for 2.5-inch drives. Put on a vibration dampening ring on the screw, slide it into the bracket, tighten, and secure the drive with an extra entry screw. You can also do this step outside of the case before installing the bracket. These 4 drives give me a total of 6TB of storage, but I can imagine some mad lads may grab 4 Samsung QVO 8TB SSDs and slap it here. The power cable and SATA cables can be connected to the power supply and motherboard respectively. I highly recommend these slim SATA cables due to their flexibility, which make them very easy to route. The graphic card can now be inserted into the PCIe riser. After that, mount the AIO to the case and do some cable management for the 24-pin. The 24-pin was routed to the back and it could barely reach the motherboard, but I do like how it turned out. The cables seem to block the top fan a bit, but there is still enough room for it to breathe. The final step are mounting the block to the CPU and installing the RAM, and with that, the research build is done. After working with this case in the previous video, it felt much easier this time. One thing I like about using a mini GPU is plugging the DisplayPort cable, because this is so easy. I could insert the cable to the top port without getting blocked by the GPU mounting bar. With an AIO, you are limited to an RTX 3060 at the moment, but if you switch to air cooling the CPU and don't use the top front fan, you can install a longer and more powerful graphic cards. Having 1 hard drive and 3 SSDs populate the bracket, I have more than enough fast storage for games and sources. So, let's have some quick noise and sound tests of the system. I will skip stress testing the CPU because it should not be different from last time. The Gigabyte RTX 2070 Mini is usually used with my Ryzen system, so being able to mount a GPU like this makes it more appealing than installing this small card vertically. The most difficult step is finding a mini card, as single fan powerful GPUs are much rarer. Another thing that bottlenecks this case, beside my wallet, is the number of SATA ports on the motherboard. We still have 3 extra spaces for 3 more 2.5-inch drives, but my motherboard only has 4 SATA connectors. Some ITX Intel boards can allow you to install up to 6 drives, so storage expansion in this configuration is extremely good for dedicated hardcore researchers. And that is the end of today's video. If you have a long graphic card and 2 to 3 hard drives, you can check out my build tutorial in the previous upload. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.